Hello, my name is Brian Fisher and welcome to another Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast. In these podcasts, we focus upon the last few games that we've played, plus briefly looking ahead to the next few games that are coming up. Our other regular podcasts focus upon previewing those up and coming matches in great detail. So do look out for them as well. They're by our regular team of James Miller and Dave Barton. In this podcast, I am joined by Steve, also known as Stoty, on the Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast, forum. He's been a regular on these podcasts for, well, I don't know how many you've done now. If we're paying you by the appearance, must be you getting quite rich, I feel, Steve.
Yeah, I'm a millionaire now.
Okay, so you're very welcome anyway. And John, who's also known as Kenzair on the Hoops and Dreams forum, and who never quite managed last season to become a guest on our podcast. So I'm delighted to have him on here tonight. So welcome to you, John.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We're now at the end of our first month of league matches, so it's possible to determine, I suppose, if Mick Beale wants or whether he has got what he wants from the squad. Plus also look at individual player performances, perhaps. A month is surely long enough to have a look at this. But first of all, we're going to review the last few games. So we're starting off with Sunderland against QPR. Then we're doing QPR Blackpool and then QPR against Rotherham. So let's start with the away game at the Stadium of Light against Sunderland, newly promoted, but already showing no signs of fear or inexperience, and with a huge support from the terraces. The match was indeed a cracker. We ended up 2 goals down and struggling to catch up. But catch up we did, as the match ended in 2-2 and thus a draw. There was no Willock, Richards or Amos available because of injuries, but there was a back four with Johansson and Field in midfield, plus an attack of Chair, Adoma and Shodipo supporting Dykes. Roberts replaced Adoma at half-time, and later on Johansson was replaced by Dazelle, Shodipo by Armstrong, and Hämäläinen by Bonn. Dave Barton went on for ages and ages in the preview podcast about this match after he'd seen it, which just goes to show how eventful it was for him. Do you feel the same way, John? Was it eventful for you?
I think that the match, the results, was eventually a very good result, but ultimately the performance, I think, from Rangers was not up to standard, put it that way. I think we got dominated by Sunderland, especially in the first half, and in the first part of the second half. They had more of the ball, they had more of the running. And to be quite honest, I think that we were a little bit lucky to get a 2-2 draw out of it. Match on the whole for me was disappointing. Result was fantastic after a comeback.
So really not a great team performance, from you would say, more of a desperate team performance.
Yeah, as I said, we shouldn't get dominated by a team that has just come up from League One. We should match them at least for effort, and I don't think we did that match apart from the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Steve, was this the right players that were starting, or is it the fact that injuries are already impacting Mick Beale's selection?
Well, I think the injuries are, but I think we've got a weak squad, a weak set of players. I mean, and that was shown when I thought Mido and Nico had to play. I don't think either of them, being perfectly honest here, are championship quality. And I thought Nico really, he would send in some hospital walls to poor old Stefan Johansson at times in this game. And yeah, part of the reason that Sunderland dominated was we looked very weak. having said that, we did have goal scoring chances, so it wasn't, it may have been 2-0 to Sunderland, and and a lot didn't change until the 81st minute. But I think Rob Dickie had a good chance, and there was a couple of other. I think Roberts had could have scored. Adoma could have scored. So, we could have won the game really, although we weren't that great. But of course, it was the 81st minute. Everything changes. On comes young Sinclair Armstrong, and all of a sudden lifts the team. And it's amazing. This young 19-year-old is now burst onto the scene. He's lifted the team, and from that moment, we just looked totally different. We looked like we wanted to play. His enthusiasm came into effect. His energy came into effect. And then the rest, as they say, is history. The 87th minute, there's Chair. He could have been sent off for putting his hands around the throat of the Sunderland player. He picks the ball up, puts it down, puts it in the top corner. And then the goal to end all goals from Sonny Dayeng, super. Yeah. And then not only does he do that, he goes right back down the other end and makes two fantastic blocks to literally keep us, at 2-2. So a game where everything happened for us in the last sort of like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think a great match if you weren't a supporter of Sunderland or QPR. Yeah, I think you're right. It had everything. And fair credit to Semi for taking the decision to go up. It was bold. And that's the first QPR goalkeeper to score a goal. So that's pretty neat. So from my perspective, Sunderland have drawn with Coventry. They've narrowly beaten Bristol City. They've lost to Sheffield United, and they've beaten Stoke. But they still sit on 5th on 8 points. So they've not been a pushover, and perhaps our draw against them should be viewed in that perspective, I suppose. We showed tenacity to come back from 2 goals down, and that we can score goals. Even if we have to use our goalie as well. So
disappointingly though, Bri, I have to say one of the things I would say about that match was the 2 Sunderland goals. The first one, Dieng makes the save, and the second ball then drops to the Sunderland player, and we've got nobody there, and Stewart puts it into the back of the net. And then for their second one, I mean, that was a little bit more unfortunate because it was Johansson, wasn't it, that went in, made the tackle, and the ball's dropped for the Sunderland striker, and and he's put it in the back of the net. But it's those second balls again. We're not picking them up.
No, I agree with that. I think we're going to come round to that. I think in the Rotherham when we talk about that one, we're not closing down properly.
Yeah.
Anyway, our second match that we're going to review was 16th of August, is home game against the Tangerines. And it should be noted that Blackpool have not won at Loftus Road since 1972. I said in the last podcast that teams such as Blackpool are the ones that QPR needs to be beating if they are to be regarded as serious contenders for the playoffs. I also said that these are the sort of teams that we should be looking to dominate. Instead, it was QPR that was dominated, and it was QPR that lost 1-0. And Blackpool have beaten Reading. They've lost to Stoke and Swansea, and they've gone on to draw with Burnley. They now sit on 11th on 7 points, so they're ahead of us. So with regard to the game, Steve, was this a fair result, and could Beale have done anything different?
Yes, I think there were. I mean, he was affected again. I mean, although Powell come back for this game, we were, Amos was still out, Jake Clark-Salter's out, Willock was out, Richards was out. So, he was affected by the players. But I think the problem is old Dykesy. I don't want to really criticise him, but he had 3 good chances in this game.
Yeah.
And he should have buried all of them, really. And the other problem, I think, Beale has got to try things, is the Johansson Field combination in midfield. I'm not sure that is working at this moment in time. I understand why he's doing it, because he needs Johansson's legs, but they just don't seem to be able to link together as well as they should. And Chair, I thought, was missing his mate. As we would see in the Rotherham game, the one thing about Chair is he likes to sit that bit deeper. And when he can sit that bit deeper and face the play and go forward, it works for him. He doesn't like playing with his back to the ball, which he has to do when Willock isn't in the team, because we expect him to play further forward and offer a bit of a threat. But in the second half, when we were 1-0 down, I expected so much more. And I don't think we really offered a threat, did we, in that second half? Really frustrating and disappointing game.
So would you consider Dazelle instead of Johansson?
I would have. I thought that we needed a little bit of a spark, and that there's no spark in that team. Dazelle may have given it, but I think the idea is in the future, this is what he sees Richards doing. Him and Amos going for that centre midfield position. But unfortunately, our squad, as I've said before, Bri, it's so weak. We got so many players that are just not good enough for this league. You know, your Shadipos and your Duke McKenna's, Masterson, they all give you 100%. But when you're looking at teams coming up against teams of the quality of the Burnleys and the Watfords, I really fear for us, because if we can't do it against the Blackpools and the Rotherhams, then I'm a bit worried at the moment.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I mean, Dazelle did start, if I remember rightly, for this game alongside Field and Johansson. So there was a three there. If you do drop Johansson, which is captain, it makes it a bit tricky, and just have Dazelle and Field, that gives you the possibility of bringing somebody else in. That somebody else has got to be, I would think, Roberts, isn't it?
It has, but I tell you what I think he's going to do. Well, I believe he'll play three at the back. When Clark Salter's fit, I think he's going to go for a three at the back, and he's going to be saying to Rob and to Dunn, who was getting forward more in the Rotherham game, and I know we don't want to talk about that at the moment, but I think he's going to be forcing those to go forward. He's going to be saying to them, I want you to link with the midfield. But until he can get Field and Johansson and Field and Dazelle working together and understanding what each other's going to do, it's just not working at this moment in time. But you know, I don't blame Beale for any of this. He's got to try these things, and he's operating with as I've said before, with a squad that I think is substandard, that he's inherited from the Warburton regime.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, John, one for you. What do you think was a fair result that Mick Beale could not have bettered?
I think that Bill's got problems with quite a few positions. Everybody knows that the fullback positions were, say, not quite good enough. He's got players in now, in Paul and Lard, to improve that position. But the central defensive midfield position is still a problem. We have got Field, who, in my opinion, is a very good player. And so is Johansson on his day, but Johansson doesn't have his day very often now. In his first season, he was really good. His link-up play with Willock and Charles was really good. 1-2s and little triangles that they played opened up the defence. He's not doing that anymore. Maybe because he's playing a little bit deeper. Maybe it's because that's what he's been asked to do. But the thing is, we've got really no alternative to him apart from Dazelle. And I think Dazelle is still learning the game. And if one of those gets injured, that's it. We've only got two, what I consider defensive midfield players left. The only other players that could possibly play there is Masterson, who really doesn't. He's a central defender. And the only other player that may be in a position to play there is Thomas. With his energy, he tackles, he can link up with other players. I don't think he's good enough to play as an attacking midfield player, especially when we've got three others like Willock, Char, and now Roberts, who are playing there. And if Amos comes back, he's got no chance. So the only other alternative he's got to getting into the first team, even on the bench, is try to play more defensive players. We have got three good attacking midfield players, but they're all similar. And the only one that's different to them is Amos, and he's injured. And I think that's the problem. If you get Amos back into the side, and you've got a player that is able to run into the box without the ball and expecting the ball to be played to him, and he can get into the box and put the ball away. He's done it on a few occasions, but he's the only player that does that. Char doesn't do it. He gets into the box by running with the ball. So does Willock, and so does Roberts. They're all similar to each other. And I think that sometimes you need a different type player to make the side more balanced. And that's the problem we've got at the moment, because both Blackpool and Rotherham set themselves up to defend a 0-0. Blackpool got lucky and got a 1-0, and Rotherham got lucky as well because we dominated them and they only got a 1-0.
Yeah, I can't argue with any you've said. And I think Amos, with the way he plays very direct, whereas Cher and Willock play off each other and do move the ball and themselves gradually into the area. Amos goes direct. And I probably find that Richards will be the same when he comes in eventually. Anyway, so Mick Beale seemed to opt for a stronger midfield for this game, I thought, with Dizelle, Field and Johansson starting in front of the back four again. And it should be noted that in the back four for this match was Ethan Laird, who looks to be quite tasty, with Tyler Roberts starting up front alongside Chair and Dykes. So it was probably a 4-3-3 or a 4-3-2-1 formation that he was going for. So he was trying something different. The first 10 to 15 minutes I felt went to script, as Blackpool were poor, with QPR making slick one-pass moves, and the fans chanting Semi Dieng scores when he wants, about our joint top scorer, which I thought was really amusing. So everything was looking good. The goal by Bowler came about as a result of Chair losing possession further upfield, just after Powell had had a really nasty injury. I think he'd done his nose in, and so they'd been stuffing cotton wool up his nose. So he was not in position, B, not really up for it. But the rest of the team allowed the ball to be driven forward very quickly into a dangerous area. They had a few fortunate ball movements, but it ended up at Josh Bowler's feet. He shoots, and yet again, Johansson failed to close him down. So it wasn't good. However, there were some positives, which I think we've sort of already mentioned in passing. We can take out of the game the fact that, for a start, we had lots of shots, as you said, and 60% of those were on target, which is certainly commendable. Then I would add that this was the best I've seen Dizelle play. And others were pretty good too, including Armstrong when he came on as a 67th minute sub. Anyway, as a result of this loss, we had accumulated only 4 points from 4 league games, and we were sitting 15th in the table. So on to our final match, which was Saturday, 20th of August at Loftus Road, when we hosted Rotherham. Like us, the Millers were a mid-table side. And like Blackpool, I said this is a side that we needed to be winning against. However, this game went the way of Blackpool, with the R's finding themselves 1-0 down by half-time, despite being more dominant and attacking. And we found ourselves playing catch-up. This time we were more successful, courtesy of Willock's 43rd minute goal, and the game ended in the end at 1-1. It was not looking good. The lineup was the back four of Laird, Dickey, Dunn, and Parle, a midfield of Field and Johansson, and up front supporting Dykes were Roberts, Willock, and Chair. So we had Willock back, and so it was probably a 4-2-3-1 formation. After half time, when it was already 1-1, Johansson was replaced by Dazelle, and that was for an injury. And then Dykes and Roberts were replaced by Adoma and Armstrong. And finally, Tyrone Willock was replaced by Shadipo. So, John, I know you took along your grandson to Loftus Road for the first time, and obviously you would have wanted a win for his first game, but did he enjoy it?
Eventually so. We got there a bit late. We had a few problems trying to park the car with the transport strike and everything, but we got there on time. He was a perfect gentleman. He behaved himself. He cheered. He's only 7 years old, and I'm concerned about his first game, and I'm worried that he's going to be scared or whatever. I was looking after him the whole match. And the only time I forgot he was there was when we scored. And of course, the emotion got to me, and I jumped up and cheered like everybody else. And I thought, oh, it's a little 7-year-old kid that's going to be absolutely petrified about it. And no, I looked down and he was standing up and clapping and cheering. And he said that he wants to go again. So that's a nice thing. We had a great time. Pity we couldn't win, but draw is better than a loss. I lost my first match 4-0. That's the first match I went to see against West Bromwich Albion in 1966, and we lost 4-0. But I've still hooked anyone.
Well, that was an improvement then, this game. Was it a fair result though, John?
I thought we dominated the game. I thought that Rotherham went there to defend a 0-0. They were time wasting from the first minute of the game. The goalkeeper was taking an immense amount of time taking goal kicks. Throw-ons were taken from the wrong place, and they were taking a long time. And they were doing everything to disrupt the game. Eventually, we did actually get a great goal back from Willock. But in the second half, when we needed to push forward, the final ball literally wasn't good enough. You can't ever, I don't think you can complain about any QPR's players' effort this season. I think they all, including the players that people don't like Hammerline and Kake, I think they still give 100%. It's not their fault that they're not good enough. It's the people that have put them in the position to be on the pitch and play a game. If they're not good enough, they shouldn't be there. We should have other players. Saying that is very easy. You can't go out and just get like a pound of apples and pick up a fullback, or you have to work at it. You have to get the right player. People are complaining that Dykes isn't good enough and we should get another striker. But where are we going to find another striker that's better than Dykes for what we can afford? Last season, he scored 8 goals, which isn't great for a striker. But if you look at the top goal scorers throughout the championship last season. Everybody wanted a striker that scored 15 to 20 goals a season. I think there was only 6 players in the championship that scored over 15 goals. So, everybody wants that type of player. Where are we going to find it on the budget we've got? Anyway, let's go back to the Rotherham game. I thought we had the better of the game. I thought we created more chances. I thought that the effort was there, but the final ball wasn't. Dyke should have scored. Charles should have scored too, I think. I would have thought. When Adamawa put the ball in across the ball, I can't remember who was on the end of it. I think it was Shapido. He should have scored as well. But none of those balls were really that great. And the opportunity just died away. But as I said, I thought we played the better of the game, but they didn't. They didn't want to win the game. They wanted to defend what they had.
Yeah, I'll put this to Steve because I already had it down for him. We had a lot of opportunities, but no end product. Is that a fair statement?
Very fair. Very fair. I thought, John summed it up really. Dykes, Chair, Armstrong and Shadipo all had chances that you would hope a clinical striker would have got on the end of. I forgive Chair, I forgive Armstrong. Shadipo just isn't good enough for me. Dykes is right out of form. The issue is that is a strong team that he put out on Saturday against Rotherham. That is as strong a team as we could put out. And the worry is that in front of goal, we're just not clinical enough. Now, Chair really, I thought that was, for me, it was Chair's best game of the season. His mate was back. I thought he was facing the play. He was, again, him and Willock, they combine lovely. It's so good. If I had one big criticism on Saturday, and it's the same as last season, was the officiating. That I thought we had 2 penalties. We had stonewall penalties. Or the first one, from I think it was Roberts headed the ball back. The player put his arm out. It hit his arm, and the referee was just and the lino. They must have been watching a different game. And then I think it was in the second half when was it Laird went forward, got fouled in the box, and that was when you're playing against a team like Rotherham who were more than happy with a point, and you're playing against the officials, and if I remember rightly, that official, I think we had him last year, and he was the same last year, gave us absolutely nothing. But you would hope in the Championship that we should be getting decent referees and decent linesmen. And I don't think we are. But sorry, getting back to the actual game and to QPR, I thought we had a strong team. The plus points were we created plenty. And the clinical striker, as John said, where do you get one? And where do you get one that we can afford? Yes, we could probably go and get a low knee. And it may well be that Beale might well do that. He might return to his mates at Villa and go for Cameron Archer, who I see was wanted by Watford, but maybe he could get him. But if we did, does that stop the progress of Sinclair Armstrong? If we could put Sinclair Armstrong and get his game management a little bit better, because he's just so enthusiastic. He chased every ball again when he came on. Could he last more than 20 minutes? He will learn. There's no doubt that Mick Beale will teach him and bring him along slowly. But at this moment in time, we need someone to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And you had 2 ex-players against us in the Rotherham side. You had Grant Hall and Washington.
Yeah.
So would you have Washington back?
No. No.
John, same.
When he was with us. no, I mean, and I think that's when you appreciate just what Dykes does, because Dykes isn't. He was never a goal scorer. He wasn't a goal scorer when we brought him in. He's the type of guy that will create goals if you've got someone playing up with him who can finish him off. But I don't want to criticise Dykes because he's up there and he takes all the buffeting and he gets involved. But he just this even he's not that physical for me. I was expecting a more physical player that was going to come in, rough up the centre halves, and create a few more chances. You know, especially for the likes of Willock and for Chair to be coming in and then whacking the ball in the back of the net. But you know, that's football, isn't it? We're going to get these results. The squad, as I've said before, isn't great, but it's a team, and I think that Beale will build on. And we've got to give him time because he's inherited Warburton's men, as Warburton invented McLaren's guys, and it took him, you know, a good season and a half to build the team around the way he wanted to play and with his men.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with any of that, and I do feel that the problem with Dykes is probably lack of confidence. When he gets in front of an open goal, he seems to have a complete wobbler. He looks like me actually when he plays in that respect. So yeah, it isn't brilliant. You're right.
No, but I think the positives are that with young Sinclair Armstrong, he's the guy that will. I'm sure he's going to take up the mantle. He's going to do something. The key will be, what does he do with Marcus Baum? Does he now send him out back on loan to Ipswich? Does he sell him to Ipswich or somebody else? But Baum is clearly now out of the first team picture, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I'll just wrap up then. First, look at the stats. Rotherham have drawn with Swansea. They thumped Reading 4-0. But we're in a goalless draw with Preston. These results show inconsistency. So perhaps, you know, it's just the same as QPR, really. And we fell behind to yet another dead ball situation where Powell had fouled on the goal line, and that ended up in a goal against us. We had far more shots, though, than Rotherham, including more shots on target. We had far more corners than they did. But we seemed incapable of converting most chances into goals. This mirrors a lot of what's been said already by you two. Dykes offers energy. He flicks on with his head and is reasonable with the interplay, but he does not look like a striker at the moment. Armstrong is just 19 years old, and to be expecting him to convert chances in his first few championship games is asking far too much, in my opinion. He'll get the odd goal, but we should not be resting our expectations on his admittedly broad shoulders, I feel. Okay, so let's move on from that game and where we sit now. We've got five matches played. We're 17th in the championship on only 5 points. So is this a side that is incapable of delivering a 90-minute performance that provides a thumping win? John, what do you think?
I think we've been unlucky with some of the results we've had so far. The performances haven't been great, but we have had a lot of injuries. I think the person that we really need back in the side more than anybody else is Amos. Amos can provide that drive in midfield, get into the box, get a little bit of pressure off of Dykes. Dykes has got a problem because everybody knows that we've got nobody else that is capable of streaming into the box. So Dykes is being double teamed by the central defence, and it's very difficult to break two defenders down. It's bad enough trying to do one, let alone two. But they don't need to look for players running into the box because we don't have another player that runs into the box. So we need Amos to get back in. We need Johansson either to improve his performances, or we need to replace him because he's not lasting 60 minutes and he's not playing as well as he did 2 seasons ago. We have got good enough players in the rest of the team. Maybe you're not on the bench, but the first team looks reasonably okay. People have complained about Paul, but he's only just come into the side and he's played his football in a foreign country using different systems. Give him a chance, let him grow into the position, and hopefully he'll improve there. I thought Dunn against Rotherham was immense. I thought he had a tremendous game. He won everything in the air. He won most things on the deck. He was intercepting everything. The problem is at the other end. I feel I don't think we've got enough different types of players to create enough problems in attack.
Yeah, I'll go with that, I think. But Steve, do you think that we've got a side that's incapable of giving a 90-minute performance that will give us goals?
No, I think I agree with a lot of what John said. I think Clark Salter, when he comes back, is a key man at the back. I thought he played well in pre-season, and he's done well when he's played. And I can honestly see, or I believe, that Beale will go for 3 at the back. And he'll put the 2, he'll put Powell and Laird as wing backs, because I think both Powell and Laird, they're not the greatest defensively, but they are good going forward. And that's why I think that extra centre back, that central defender, will cover there. And I think it'll give us more balance. The key will be up front then, because obviously, you know, if we're saying that we're going to play 3 at the back, 2 wing backs, that's 5 positions gone plus the goalkeeper 6. Then we've got to fit in another 4. Now, assuming Willock and Chair are givens, probably Roberts is a given. It's yeah. I'm not sure everyone could play, but the good thing for me is it means that we've got a more solid squad of players. We're not having to include the Duke McKenna's and some of the other players who, admittedly, they do give 100%. But as John pointed out earlier, you know, they may not be good enough, but that's not Beale's fault. It's not their fault. It's just the way the cookies crumbled for us. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the season. I still think there's plenty of promise.
I like that. Good bit of optimism. Yeah, I must admit, all that you've said is made a lot of sense. I am concerned, like you, with the play in the final third. I think that's where we're obviously falling down. And I would also question whether, at the moment, the team as a whole is capable of playing what Beale demands in terms of the attacking-based possession football that will get all the way up the pitch. We get so far and then we fade away on every attack, it seems to me. Willock is going to make a hell of a difference in this, I think, because Dykes will be able to pass on to him, flick onto him and whatever, or onto Chair. He's got 2 options now. And if Roberts is around, even better. And yeah, maybe that will make a difference, but we still need to score.
Yeah, I think, Bri, I think what's happening is the likes of Willock, he still can't be fully fit. And the same with some of those other players. Some of them are coming back from injury, and that's probably another topic entirely, the number of injuries that we keep picking up, and hamstring injuries especially. But I think, again, once these players are up to full speed, I think we'll be more than a threat for most teams. And I honestly do believe that we're gonna do well.
Good.
I hope
This is a good time then for me to ask my next question. And I'll start with you in that case, Steve. Should the club be getting worried about the lack of goals? And will some rash supporters be calling for Mick Beale's head? I
think it's very unfair to call for Beale's head yet. I mean, you've got to give him let's just go back to when Warburton arrived. Warburton tried various things early doors when he came in. And up to that first Christmas that he was the manager, we played some really poor stuff. Then all of a sudden, at Christmas, he got into that January window. He brings in Charlie. He brought in Johansson. He brought in Field. And he changed the setup. He went from playing 4 at the back. He went to the 3 at the back. And we were just magnificent then. From then to the end of the season, we went on a run. I'm certain, and I wouldn't get too hung up with what Beale is doing. Beale is he's got to try stuff. He's new to management. He's going to try new formations. He's going to try what he thinks works. He will learn from that. He will see that some things work, some things don't work. And the likes of Roberts, I think Roberts could be good. I think he could be a good striker. And if we got him, I mean, that doesn't mean to say that Dykes might not come back into form, but I think his front 3, it will be Roberts up front with Willock and Chair playing just behind. Yeah, I think he's going to play a very attacking team. When everybody's fully fit, I can see that's the way he's going to go. Whether that will produce the goals, I mean, that's the crystal ball, really. I'd like to think it would. But certainly we know Chair and Willock can create and score goals because they prove that. So I'm still positive at the moment, and I wouldn't criticise Beale at all. Beale, like all new managers, has got to try things. He's got to understand what his players can and can't do. We saw with Warburton that he wanted the goalkeepers to play out from the back. He learned early that Lumley couldn't do that. Lumley became a bit of a liability. The crowd got onto him. And this is the worst thing then. Those players lose confidence. And I don't want to see the same with Dykes, because we know that Dykes can go on a scoring run. And he's not quite as bad as we all make out, really. He's just frustrated.
Yeah, I would also mention that, I mean, we said earlier on that Dykes had got 8 goals last season. But the number of goals that we scored was spread over the whole team. Yeah, it was pretty impressive in that respect. Yeah. John, so do you think Mick Beale should go?
Not, it's far too early. I don't think anybody should make a decision before Christmas. I think it's ridiculous to say that he's not good enough. He's only had 6 games. He needs at least 20 games before he can work out a system to suit the players that we've got. He's still got, I think it's 3 weeks to get other players in to improve the squad. I think that somebody said that we lost 15 players during a close season, and we've only brought in 5. So we have got space in our squad for more players to come in. I don't think it's been a disappointing one this season. It hasn't been a disaster. Nobody has put us really under the cosh. The worst game the worst defeat that we had was against Blackburn, and that really wasn't that bad. We haven't had a Newcastle. We haven't had a West Brom. Nobody's put 4 goals past us. We've competed more or less with every other team. We just need the players to click, the ball in the final third, players to get a goal coming off the knee or the backside to give the team a bit of confidence, get a few wins under our belt. And that's what happened with Warburton. If you remember, when he first started, he had not a very good start until he changed things around. He worked out what was best for the team and did it. And that's, at the end of the day, people were saying that they didn't want him to leave. But if you'd have asked people in the first 5 or 6 weeks of his tenure, they would have said, "Get rid of him. He's not good enough." Yeah. Well, they're doing exactly the same with Beale now.
That's it. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there have to be concerns at the lack of scoring in the final third sort of thing. We're not transferring our dominance in play into goals. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Exactly.
We look pretty, but we're also ineffective going forward. Mick Beale does appear to be mixing up the formations and looking for solutions. Although whether this is to counter the way other teams play or whether it's to find a better formation for himself, I'm not sure. What matters is that we've got a manager or coach who is still learning. As you both pointed out, it's still early days. And he has to work out which players can transfer their training pitch prowess into actual performances in a Championship League game. And I think he's finding that out now. But I would also say, I guess, to counter that, although he needs to do this, he probably needs to learn it fairly quickly. I don't think we have got that much time. So Christmas will be coming shortly, you know. Okay, so I'd like to go over player performances and ask for your quick assessment from all of us. If I name the player and ask you for your thoughts, starting with you, John, if I may, on Sinclair Armstrong.
Has got bags of potential. He looks very direct. He is nowhere near the final product. He's got a lot to learn. I like the player, but I wouldn't play him as a starting centre forward or a starting striker at the moment. I think he's good coming on with his energy to try to create a goal, but I don't think he'll be any better than Dykes if he started the game.
Steve?
Well, very similar to John. Armstrong's a beast, isn't he? He's but the way he lifts the crowd when he comes on, his enthusiasm and his energy is brilliant. As John pointed out, you couldn't play for 90 minutes doing all of those things, making the runs that he makes. And he chases lost causes, which is great. But over time, his game management will change and develop. But I mean, what an enthusiastic lad, and his reaction, I think, to that DN goal, and all with the pictures that are now on the site, it's a schoolboy, isn't it? It's when you've got, a bit like John's grandson going to the first game, seeing QPR, the enthusiasm, and the joy was brilliant to see from him. But what potential that the guy's got. Yeah, give him the rest of this season, and we should see an even better product after Christmas.
Yeah, I think he's got lots of potential. I agree with both of you there. And he is still learning to play, of course. And the Championship is not an easy place to learn. It really isn't. And so he's got to be nurtured, I feel. So anyway, let's flip from him to Shodipo. Steve?
Out of his depth, not good enough. He again, I'd send him back to Sheffield Wednesday. I think we got a weak squad and nice, honest lad, but not good enough for Championship football. I just think he's weakened our squad.
I'm going to agree with that. I don't think he's improved enough. He offers youth and speed, but I don't feel that's enough. John, what about you?
No, I don't think he will get even onto the bench if we have a full fit squad. We've got enough midfield players. We've got enough wide field midfield players to cover the bench as well. I feel sorry for the guy because I don't like criticising QPR players if they perform well, not perform well, but give everything in the game. And I don't think he hides in games. I think he puts himself on the line. But you know, the quality of his final ball, like a lot of players recently, hasn't been good enough. And as I said, we've got better players to play in the squad than him.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. Let's move on to Laird. John, what do you think of him?
Too early to tell, I think. In Rotherham, he didn't do anything particularly bad. He played well. He got down the wing. He put in a few crosses. His defensive display isn't that bad, but it's still very early days. He's still got to build up a relationship with the other people on that side of the bench. I didn't think that he got involved that much with playing 1-2s with other players. He made a good few runs going down the side, but you know, I think he can only improve. So far, I'll give him a 6. He hasn't had a bad game, I don't think, but he hasn't had a great game either.
Okay, Steve, do you think the same?
Yeah, I do. I think he looks decent from what we've seen. It's early days, but I think he's going to be better as a wing back than an actual right back. Although I would say I think he is an upgrade on Kake. I think he's better going forward. And there's not much between them defensively from what I've seen. But yeah, I think he's okay. I think the whole measure of the squad, Bry, is you have to measure it by, is the quality of the squad this year better or worse than last year or the same? And I don't think it's much different when you marry up and say Laird is replacing Odebejo and Powell is replacing Wallace. You know, we're very similar, whereas other teams have improved. We more or less stayed the same. And a lot of our additional players have come from our own ranks by bringing back Masterson, by bringing back Sinclair Armstrong into the squad, really.
Yeah, and I would also say that if you have an attack-based, possession-based attacking football, you are forced in a way to score goals, and more because you do leave yourself vulnerable at the back. When you play that sort of against those quick breaks from people like Mr. Bowler. But okay. I do agree with you about Laird. I would say, though, he's a welcome addition. I think that we needed him. And I totally agree he is an improvement upon Kake. Okay, that brings us on to the other one, Powell. John, what do you think about him?
Again, too early to tell. I think he's come from the Dutch football, I think, play a totally different type of game that we do in Britain. They're more a technical based country rather than our physical up and at 'em, go for broke. And I think he needs to work on his game to develop it into a more British style. I think he might at the moment, he's getting bossed a bit. He's getting pushed around. I don't know whether or not that's his size or whether or not it's because he's not used to being that physical. But I think he would improve. He had a reputation of being a really good fullback in Holland. I can't see why he can't get that reputation back in England. But yes, he does need to improve a bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that either. Steve, I'm sure you're not going to.
No, I very much agree with what John has said. I think the thing with Powell is I think he played in the back three when he was in Holland, or they tended to play with a back three, and he must have got used to playing that system. Now being in a back four is slightly different. I thought he looked a bit ill at ease on Saturday against Rotherham with that. I think the chap's name was Ogbenny, who was attacking him and tied him in knots a few times, and that could be a worry if he plays against a few tricky defenders. But yeah, early days. He's not overly big, but I mean, again, I try to compare him and say, well, last season, Wallace was doing good. McCallum did okay. Powell, yeah, he's there. I mean, we've got to give him time to settle in, learn the way, and it's probably a bit too early to judge him yet, Bri.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add to this is that at the moment, I don't think his attacking prowess is any different from Lee Wallace, and his defending, I just don't think at the moment is quite good enough. But I do feel that you're probably right that he has to get used to the Championship's physicality.
Yeah.
I can't think of another league elsewhere that has got the same physicality.
No,
So
no,
we'll
and
see.
the number of games as well, Bri. I think
Yes.
the number of games that he faces, that should hopefully beef him up a bit as well. But it could be a shock to his system. As John said, playing in Holland could be totally different to the number of second division games that we have, and they're playing 2 games a week. So
Good
we
point.
will see. Time will tell.
And don't forget, Wallace was really criticised when he started to play for QPR. He was getting probably the lowest marks in player of the match stats. But I think he worked out a very good partnership with the other wide players, and that he brought himself into playing better. And we really missed him when he wasn't in the team, because although he wasn't the quickest man, he was always going down to the opposition byline and putting in good crosses, which is something we lack at the moment. We lack players putting in quality balls from deep position.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah,
that was very much evident in the Rotherham game, because Powell, his crosses were either too much or just they weren't that good. So yeah, hopefully he'll improve. I'm sure he will, given time. Okay, it brings us on to the last one I wanted to talk about, which is Roberts. Steve, what do you think of him?
Yeah, he looks good. I mean, he had a good. He scored a cracking goal against Charlton. Produces nice touches. I mean, he's played at this level before, did well for Leeds at this level. Yeah. He does try the worldie every so often, doesn't he? He wants to try the spectacular, but I think he's another one. It's early days, but I think he looks good, and promising. I look forward to seeing more of him, Brian.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I like what I've seen so far, especially in regard to his attacking flair. What about you, John?
Again, I really like him. He played really well in the Rotherham match. I thought he linked up well with Jerome Willock. The problem I've got is that when everybody's fit, who are you going to leave out? Are you going to leave out Roberts, or are you going to leave out Chera, or are you going to leave out Willock? Because all 3 of them won't play in the same team if Amos is back in the side. It'll be impossible. You can't have 4 attacking midfield players and leave 1 defensive midfield player to cover the whole pitch. So one of those 4 won't be playing. I'm a great Chair fan. I think he's an immense talent. Lots of people like Willock, that they think he's the best player that we've got at the moment. I think Amos, if he's fit, plays because he's different to the other 3. So does Roberts play? Yeah.
Who would be a manager or a coach? Right. Okay, I'm going to go through briefly the next few weeks of 2 weeks of matches. All I'm after from you really is a win, loss, or win, lose, or draw. Okay, first one up is Watford QPR, which is on Saturday, the 27th of August, which is my brother's birthday. Happy birthday, Ray. Coming after the loss against Blackpool and the draw against Rotherham just a few days before, we surely cannot be hoping for too much from our visit to the ex-Premier League Watford, who are sitting in second place behind the Blades. So, Steve, win, draw, or lose?
Lose.
John?
Heart says win. Head definitely says lose.
Okay.
Lose.
Oh, good. I was going to hedge my bets and go, I'm hoping for a draw, but expecting to lose. Okay. That solves that one. On to Tuesday, the 30th of August. QPR are playing Hull. So we're at home for this one. It's a newly revitalised Hull, perhaps been the surprise of the season so far, beating Bristol City and Norwich and drawing with Preston and Burnley. So it won't be an easy home game, that's for sure. And this is yet another one where we have a home advantage. So I'm hoping for a draw. What about you, Steve?
No, I'm going for a win in this one, Brian.
Oh,
I'm going to be positive.
Great. You do realise we're recording this. John, what about you?
I'm going to go for a high-scoring win. Hull are scoring goals for fun, but they're also letting in quite a lot. If we can score goals. We need to be defending very well to keep them out.
I really hope you're right.
Win.
I hope you're right. We're due for a good game. Overdue. Right, the next one I want to mention is Saturday, the 3rd of September, and that is away game, Swansea against QPR. In contrast to Hull, Swansea are languishing in 20th place. I must add, though, that although they're on the 20th, they're on the same points as QPR. On paper, then a match of equals. John?
Well, again, probably heart rule in my head again, but I'm going to go for a win, believe it or not. I think that Swansea are not like Rotherham and Blackpool, where they're set up for a defensive performance, especially at home. And I think we're better than they are attacking, so I'm going to go for a win.
Great, good stuff. And Steve?
No, I'm a little bit more cautious. I'm going to go for a draw in this one. I think we'll get something from it, but I think it'll only be a draw.
Okay, well, I'm going for a win. Last one. QPR Huddersfield, Saturday, the 10th of September. The Terriers had a rather poor start and are 22nd in the league. They've only got 3 points as well. They've lost to Burnley, Birmingham, Norwich, but they did beat Stoke, of course. Surely this is a side that we can beat. Steve?
Yeah, definitely for me. I've gone for a 2-1 win. I think we're going to do well in this one.
Okay, right. And John?
Yeah, I think we're going to scrape a win as well. They can't afford to defend at home with their fans, so they're going to try to beat us. We're better than they are.
Gosh, well, I hope I'm not going to put the kibosh on this by saying that I think it's going to be a win as well. So that's all the games that we're going to sort of cover in the snap preview. So really, that's it for this podcast. Other than for me to thank my guests, John and Steve, for appearing on the podcast. And thank you all for watching, and ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel or contribute to the Hoops and Dreams Forum. We'd love to have you on there. I am Brian Fisher, and this was a Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast. Come on, you R's!
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.